Hey guys, what's up? Okay, so today's video is going to be a big one, both figuratively and extremely literally. Today's video is going to be about this elephant right here. This is Zunesha, also known as the giant elephant, where the mink tribe has their city on top of. You know, the city or the island on top of an elephant's back. Now, we always figured Zunesha was pretty damn tall. It literally walks on the ocean floor. So, therefore, it had to be at least 10,000 meters tall, which easily makes it the largest One Piece creature. But in the last Viva card pack, we finally got an actual height for the thing, and it's insane. Suffice it to say, it's a lot taller than 10,000 meters, okay? So, I love character heights because I'm always kind of curious on, like, who's bigger than who. You know, where does Juan Wolf stack up against, like, the Kraken or Watatsume? So, I'll give you just a brief overview of some of the largest creatures in One Piece. This, of course, doesn't include the Sea Kings because we don't really get names or heights or anything for the Sea Kings. But in terms of largest creatures, we have Little Oars Jr., who is 38 meters tall, so pretty big there. Then we have Oars himself, who, fun fact, was actually the height was changed in the last Viva card pack. And I'll still be making a video on the Viva card pack just on its own, but yeah, I need to talk about this now because this raises a lot of questions for me, and I need to discuss this. Okay, so once again, thanks to Artur for the translations. Links to his stuff below, of course. And when the Viva card pack is properly translated, I'll do that video like normal, but yeah. So, Oars, his original height was always stated to be 39 meters, so just like 1 meter taller than his descendant, Oars third, or Little Oars Jr., right? However, it's been changed now to 67 meters, so he's even bigger than that, and it was implied that it was, you know, he had something to do with the creation of Wano, or his ancestors might have had something to do with the creation of Wano, because, you know, Moria wanted Oars, and Oars is connected to, you know, Wano because there's like a giant skull of like an ancient giant on Onigashima, and you know, like all these different islands seem to be pushed together to make Wano, so it probably wasn't Oars himself, because even a 67 meter giant pulling these huge islands together doesn't seem very possible. It would have to be a giant that would be several hundred, several thousand meters tall to make this work, yeah, although even smaller than Zunesha in that regard, but I just wanted to mention it seemed to be retconned. Then we have Watatsume, who's 80 meters tall. However, he can increase his height by sucking in more air to make himself even larger than the Kraken. The Kraken is 300 meters tall if Tsurume were to stand on his tentacles, which I guess he could do. He has a lot of muscle strength if he was on dry land, but he's usually underwater, so he's usually just spread out. You know, he's an octopus. You know, it's a Kraken or a squid, I guess, more appropriate for a Kraken. But yeah, if Tsurume were to just extend all of his tentacles up, he would be 300 meters tall, which is pretty respectable. And then we have Juan Wolf. Juan Wolf is 180 meters tall when we see him at Marineford when he appears behind Marine HQ. However, Juan Wolf actually has that height because of a devil fruit power. Originally, he is just a normal-sized giant, so probably around, you know, somewhere in the ballpark of 15 to 20 meters, maybe a little taller than that. Broggy and Dory were a little taller than 20 meters, but not much taller than that. Juan Wolf has some kind of devil fruit that allows him to, like, increase his height or, like, maybe multiply it. Here's food for thought. The height that we see San Juan when he was at Marineford might not even be his limit. That might not even be his final form yet. He might be able to increase his height even further, but if he did that, then maybe he would have been spotted too easily or something. Like, maybe Blackbeard was like, yeah, San Juan, hide behind freaking Marine HQ and pop your head out. That'll put the terror of God into him, you know, so maybe he can make himself even bigger. Who knows? But, yeah, those are some pretty large characters here. But that has nothing on Zunesha, all right? This elephant breaks everything I thought I knew about the One Piece world, kind of. So, Zunesha has extremely long legs, and that's how it can walk around the ocean. Its legs stretch all the way down to the seafloor, and then it's just been walking around the New World, possibly the entire Grand Line from what we're going to be getting into here. You might be questioning, well, how could it walk, how could it get around the Red Line then? Oh, well, considering its height, it could literally just kind of walk over it like it's just like a log in the middle of the road. You just kind of like, oh, okay, just gonna walk over that. Zunesha's confirmed height is 35,000 meters. Yeah. Okie dokie. We can roll with that. 35,000 meters. Okay, 35 kilometers. All right. So, this elephant is taller than Skypiea, which means that when the Straw Hats were on the back of Zunesha on Zo, going around, meeting Carrot and Wanda and Inarashi and Nekomamushi and all that stuff, according to this measurement, they were 15,000 meters higher than they were on Upper Yard and having their whole adventure, there with Eneru and everything. Yeah, that's even higher than that. Because it's already been confirmed that Fishman Island is on the sea floor, at the very bottom of the ocean. Actually, it's actually even further down than that, because it's like inside of a giant trench, kind of like similar to like the Mariana Trench or like Challenger Deep in our world. There's like the sea floor, then there's this huge trench that goes down, and if you go down that trench 10,000 meters down, that's Fishman Island, pretty much right there on the bottom of the ocean. Doesn't get much deeper than that, okay? So already Zunesha has to be able to, stand higher than 10,000 meters, because to be above sea level, but then I always figured its body was, high up there, maybe like, 5, 6, maybe even 7,000 meters. Maybe the thing was about the same height as the White Sea, or maybe just below the White Sea. Maybe the same height as the Red Line. I always assume that the Red Line reaches up to just shy of the White Sea, because then you'd start getting like Sky Islands involved with Marie-Joie and stuff. So if the White Sea is 7,000 meters up, I figured that the top of the Red Line, where Marie-Joie is, was like around 6,000 meters. And that's like the general height that I figured Zunesha probably was. But no, it goes whoo, like through the roof with that, okay? So here's a diagram I created for this. If we're to believe this is how this works, okay? Sea floor, 10,000 meters down. Sea level, we got 0 kilometers just right there. 7,000 meters up, White Sea. 10,000 meters up, White Sea. That's where Upper Yards, where Skypiea, Angel Island used to be. And then even higher up, you have Zo, the country of Zo. And then I guess even higher than that is the moon. Although, at this point, I guess I wouldn't even be surprised if Zunesha was just stomping around and just bumped its head on the moon and is just like, oops, sorry. And Eru's like, hey, you stupid elephant, quit bumping into my property. Because I guess the moon is like within the atmosphere of like the One Piece world. Like you can breathe on the moon, or the moon has its own atmosphere. For sanity's sake, I'm just going to say the moon is a lot higher up than Zunesha, okay? And unless the moon turns out to be Unicron, or the planet that the One Piece, story takes place on turns out to be like a giant turtle or elephant or dragon or some other kind of large animal, then Zunesha is the tallest thing by far. Also, its length is 12.4 miles or 20 kilometers, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're not talking about length, we're talking about height, because that's the big deal, okay? So if we're just going to assume here, I guess it's not entirely impossible that the ocean might be slightly deeper than 10,000 meters in other parts, but from what we've seen with Fishman Island and how it's at the bottom of a trench and everything like that, I would assume that's as deep as it could get, or if it does get deeper than Fishman Island, not by very much. So let's just say, alright, 10,000 meters of Zunesha are underwater. That means the remaining 25,000 are above water, which means that the Straw Hats, when they landed at Zunesha and they got Ryunosuke, when Kanjuro used his drawing devil fruit powers to create the crawling dragon Ryunosuke, forever in our hearts, and climbed up the freaking elephant, they climbed up 15.5 vertical miles in order to get to the top of that damn elephant. Alright, so I'm like, whoa, okay, now I need to figure this out, because Ryunosuke was not really booking it all that fast up that elephant, okay? It wasn't like it was like an express train, alright? Ryunosuke was moving pretty damn slow. So I originally assumed, like, moving at like the walking pace or slower that Ryunosuke was, just slowly crawling up this freaking elephant, I wanted to know how long that would take the Straw Hats to get all the way to the top of the thing, okay? Now, there's a couple of pieces of information here I had to fill in because we don't know everything. We don't know exactly how many hours it took the Straw Hats to get up to the top of the elephant, okay? We also do not know the time that they left, because we don't, like, get times in One Piece. It's not like Oda comes on and is like, at 8:06 a.m., the Straw Hats begin their ascent up Zunesha. They don't do that, alright? The only thing we have to go on is, When the Straw Hats arrived at the top of Zunesha, the sun was setting because they were so high up, they were above the clouds so they could see the sun clearly. When they began their ascent at the bottom, at sea level, it was super misty and foggy and overcast, and you couldn't tell what time of the day it was, although I would like to assume it wasn't like in the middle of the night. Now, with the sunset being the only thing we have to go on here in terms of time, we know they arrived like around twilight in Zo. Okay, I'm going to assume that the Straw Hats began their ascent no earlier than dawn that same day. So just when, like, the sun was coming up at sunrise, you know, it was still really foggy and overcast and they couldn't really see anything, but it wasn't pitch dark when they started. It might have been a little bit later in the morning than that, but let's just say dawn at the earliest. They start at sunrise, and then at sunset, they finally managed to get to the top of the elephant, okay? How fast would Ryunosuke have to travel? Would it even be possible for Ryunosuke to reach the top of the elephant traveling at such a slow pace the entire time? That's what I wanted to figure out here, okay? Now, Ryunosuke, I know he's alive in our hearts, but Ryunosuke is not a living thing. I know, I'm sorry, but we love him. We love him like a living person, but biologically, he's not a living thing. He was created because of Kanjuro's devil fruit powers. They work very similar to, like, the Meeseeks from Rick and Morty, where Ryunosuke was created for a sole purpose, and after he fulfilled said purpose, he goes back into being a drawing, so that's what Kanjuro's devil fruit is. We don't know what the name of Kanjuro's devil fruit is yet, but it's like he creates a sparrow, and the sole purpose of the sparrow is fly us out of the trash compactor, and after it does that, it fulfills its purpose and it disappears. And because Kanjuro's drawing skills suck, everything he draws seems to be in horrible pain that just wants to end its existence as quickly as possible. So he creates Ryunosuke with the sole purpose of climbing up the side of Zo and reaching the top. That's why Ryunosuke was created. He does not need to eat or drink or rest, although he could still feel pain and discomfort, which is kind of messed up when you think about it, but that's the sole purpose, okay? So even though Ryunosuke was traveling at a very slow pace up the side of Zunesha, it could maintain that slow pace at a steady rate all the way up. It's not like Ryunosuke was slowing down the further it went up, or he had to stop to rest or catch his breath or something. No, he was traveling slow, but it was consistently slow all the way to the top, so that helps us out a little bit. So now moving on to the next calculation I had to make. Exactly how much time in terms of hours and minutes do we have to work with here? Sunrise to sunset gives us a general ballpark, but how long is that? Because that changes depending on where you're at in the world and what season it is. And of course, this is the One Piece world. We don't know what season it is where the Straw Hats are at right now, and the weather, of course, is always weird in the Grand Line, of course. We don't know the size of the planet they're on, the axis tilt they're at. We don't know anything like that. So just for simplicity's sake, I used the sunrise and sunset where I'm at in the world, okay? And it's in the middle of the summer where I'm at right now, so obviously it's going to give us a lot more time to work with. If it was the winter, it would be a lot shorter. But for right now where I am, the sun rose at 5:53 a.m. this morning, and it is set to set at 8:47 p.m. this evening. That is just shy of 15 hours. It's like 14, 15, it's just shy of 15, so just make it 15 hours. Okay, so they got 15 hours if they started right at dawn to get to the top of this elephant by sunset. Okay, how fast would Ryunosuke have to travel to make that work? Okay, well, I calculated it out, and it's actually possible. Ryunosuke would travel at 27.7 meters a minute, or 91 feet per minute. That's the minimum he would have to travel to get to the top of that elephant. Once again, that is assuming we have the 15 hours to work with. So 27 meters a minute or 91 feet per minute. So just to see if that's possible or how long it takes like a human at walking pace to walk 91 feet, I went out and I just tried it myself. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a walking speed experiment here just to see how long it takes me to walk from one street corner to another one, and this is one block in my little town here. So we have this tree right here, street corner, and then up there we have that other tree, which is the other street over. My town is pretty small. So I'm not going to sprint or anything, I just want to see how far it is. I have an app to measure the distance in feet, as well as you know, a timer to keep track of how long it takes me to walk from this corner to the other. So let's see what it comes out to. Okay, and here we are at the other end of the street. So that took me almost an exact minute. It was closer to like 57 seconds, so I walked a little bit into the street, but it was about a minute, and I walked around 316 feet. It was like 0.06 miles or something like that. These numbers might not be 100% exact, you know, based on like, you know, error with the app, and also it's a little bit of a slight incline, but walking pace around 300 feet. That's the point of this. So yeah, I guess it actually ends up working because Ryunosuke only has to travel around 90 feet per minute for that pace to actually work to get to the top of Zunesha. I just feel really bad for the poor thing because I can imagine doing this except at 1/3 the pace, and I was already going pretty slow already, so yeah, it's pretty insane. But yeah, it's possible. Now, if Ryunosuke was traveling at the same walking pace that I was this morning, then he would have been able to reach the top of Zunesha in only 4.5 hours. So they could have started at like mid-afternoon and managed to get there by sunset if they traveled at that pace. So it's probably actually less than 15 hours that it took to get them all the way up there, but it took a while. I think the reason why Oda showed the sunset by the time they finally got to the top of that damn thing was really to illustrate just how ridiculously long it took to get there. Alright, so it could have been 15 hours at the latest, or it could have been 4.5 hours at the shortest, but probably somewhere in between that number is probably more appropriate there. Now, I also thought in parallel of the Skypiea arc, because think about how difficult it was for the Straw Hats to get up to the Sky Islands. I mean, they had to calculate when the knock-up stream was going to hit, they had to modify the Mary, they had to sail into that whirlpool, get shot straight up. That was a lot of effort to just get 7,000 meters up, and here we are relatively easily getting up, you know, 7 to 10,000 meters, and even higher than that. But of course, the big difference there is now they have something physical to actually grab onto and just climb up. Forget for a moment that Zunesha is an elephant. Let's just say there was a giant ladder in the middle of the ocean that stretched straight up to Skypiea. You know, Luffy and the rest of the crew, I mean, they're pretty strong. They would probably be able to just climb up that ladder and eventually hit it. It would just take them a while. The problem with Skypiea was they didn't have anything to grab onto. They had to figure out some random way in order to get a ship from the ocean all the way up to the sky, to the clouds, alright? But yeah, in the case with Ryunosuke and Zou, I calculated that out too. In order to get to 10,000 meters up into the White Sea, yeah, it would have only taken Ryunosuke, if he was traveling at 300 feet per minute, it would only take him 1 hour and 49 minutes. If he was traveling at the slower pace, at 91 feet per minute, it would take him 6 hours. 6 hours to go from sea level all the way up to the White Sea, which I think is preferable to what they did before. And also keep in mind, back during Skypiea, they had to get the entire boat up there. They had to get the whole Mary up into the clouds. Here, they're leaving the Sunny docked on Zunisha's leg, and then just getting up on, you know, just by themselves, right? Just holding on to Ryunosuke the entire way. And I think, like Usopp, I think, complained about, like, oh man, my arms are already tired from holding on to this thing. But holding on to something for 15 hours, I mean, that might be a physical feat for a human, especially somebody, like, kind of out of shape. But, you know, for the Straw Hats, that's not a big deal. Holding on to a dragon climbing vertically for even 15 hours, I think they could manage. I don't think that would be that big of a deal, especially for Luffy, Zoro, you know, Law. They would have no issue with that. Even though Law, I guess, just did recently get his arm reattached at Dressrosa. Like, guys, I think it's about to pull off again. You know, like, all right, it's okay. Luffy just grabs onto Traff. He's like, I'll hold on to you, buddy. Not a big deal. So yeah, that I just wanted to calculate how long it would have taken them to get to the top of the elephant. But then you think about other stuff, like the Red Line. Like, it's been stated that Zunesha has been wandering the Grand Line for 1,000 years or 900 years. It's an 1,000-year-old elephant, but it's been wandering, I think, ever since the Void Century. Obviously, I don't think Zunesha started wandering the Earth as soon as it was born, right? We might actually get a backstory with Zunesha that's really depressing. Actually, scratch that. We will get a backstory with Zunesha that's really depressing. Let me paint the picture for you now. 1,000 years ago, we see Zunesha as a little baby elephant, and it's like the happiest baby elephant ever. Like, yay, I'm a happy baby elephant! And like the minks were there, and it was happy about it and everything, and then Zunesha kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the Void Century happened, and then something happened, and it was forced to walk the Earth for all eternity, and just turned into just like, this is existence now. So you're thinking like, okay, what about the Red Line though? I mean, it probably does just stay in the New World. I can't imagine it would wander into the Paradise side of the Grand Line, but It could. It totally could. It could just walk over the Grand Line, not a big deal. This thing could wander into the North Blue or the West Blue, which are adjacent sides of the freaking New World, because it doesn't matter. Because this thing is so huge, there is nothing that could do to basically stop it. Except for a bunch of cannonballs that Jack was firing at its leg. That had the potential to stop it, but that doesn't have anything to do with its height. That's just because it's so old, its skin was really brittle, so it was able to get hurt a lot easier. I mean, if this was like 500-600 years ago, it'd been able to tank those cannonballs no problem. Probably. I don't know. But yeah. Pretty damn big elephant. Also, I'm curious, so it's also stated in the Vivaricard data book that its favorite food are apples from Sky Islands. So Zunesha literally eats by just walking around and then just plucking food off of, I guess, giant cloud trees up in the sky. And this also brings up a question. We know there's a white sea and a white sea. Are there sea, like, cloud layers higher than that? Is there a white sea? Or a white times 4 sea? Like, how does this work? By the way, looking at the atmosphere layers just on our planet, just to make sure that Zunesha was not straddling, like, the freaking exosphere or something. No, our stratosphere can go up about 50 kilometers. Before you start getting into the mesosphere and stuff. Now, of course, that high up, you go 50 or even 35 kilometers up in our world, you're not going to be able to breathe. It's going to be wicked cold, but this is the One Piece world we're talking about here. Actually, you could probably get around the cold factor by just saying, like, the body heat of the elephant is enough to heat up the city of Zou, so you're not freezing your butts off up there. And in terms of, like, the lack of oxygen, like, that was mentioned already once, and, like, when they went to Skypiea, like Zoro and Luffy and Sanji couldn't breathe very well when they were fighting Wiper the first time, but it gave them like 5 minutes and they were like, okay, we're good. Because, like, they had to go through the, like, we can't go the entire Skypiea arc with, like, everybody being out of breath. Like, okay, I think Upper Yard is where Eneru is at, so... Oh, man, it's hard to breathe up here. Like, just for simplicity's sake, Oda's just like, yeah, you're 10,000 meters up, but the lack of oxygen's not really going to affect you. There's enough oxygen around. It's okay. You'll be fine. So, you could say because Zou has, like, a giant forest, the whale forest and everything, that creates enough oxygen so you can breathe. No problem. It's okay. So, that's how you could get around those problems. And if it's the same atmospheric layers, like, in terms of height in our world, then it would still be in the bounds of the atmosphere. It wouldn't be like reaching into outer space. It would, Zunesha would still be in the stratosphere there. So that's a good thing, I guess. And of course, the moon is even, higher up than that, probably several, maybe 100 kilometers, maybe even more than that, reaching into outer space, and it just has its own atmosphere. Yeah, I've already made a whole video about the moon. I actually made 2 of them about that, but yeah. Now, people have brought up, like, Zunesha might in fact be an ancient weapon, kind of the same way that the Sea Kings are the ancient weapon Poseidon, being controlled by Poseidon, who is Shirahoshi. I would still not consider Zunesha an ancient weapon, because even though it is huge, and if it really wanted to, it could just, like, stomp out, like, if Zunesha took one of its feet and managed to reach up and, like, get over the sea level and just the act of rising its foot out of the water would be enough to create a giant tsunami that would already wash out an entire island. But if it brought up its foot and just stomped down on an island, it would just completely annihilate it right then and there. Even with that being the case, Zunesha is still very, very slow getting to destinations, and it's also very brittle given its age. So, even though it's huge, Jack was still able to cripple the thing just by, having regular battleships firing cannonballs at one of its legs. Although, Jack, I don't think you were really thinking this far through too much when you really just go after attacking Zunesha, knowing just how redonkulously tall this damn thing is. Just like one swing from the trunk and this thing is like causing a tsunami like on the other side of the planet, like it's crazy how huge this thing is. So yeah, I did not expect Zunesha to be this tall. I was expecting it to maybe be at best maybe 10,000 meters above sea level, so like 20,000 total. I wasn't even expecting that, but that would make sense. Like, okay, it stretches all the way down to the seafloor and then maybe all the way up to the White Sea. But no, this gives us a whole new area that we've never seen before, higher up than even Upper Yard and Angel Island. So that was cool. Thanks for giving us that, Oda, I suppose. And like I said, unless the moon or, the planet or some like space snake shows up all of a sudden. Zunesha's the largest thing in the One Piece world, bar none. We got a record holder that I think will stay at until the end of the story. All right, so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be doing a video on the Viva Record when it's released normally. So just hold off on that. Thanks to Artur for the translations as always, and always remember, guys, pet an elephant. If you have the opportunity to pet an elephant, pet an elephant. Or maybe you shouldn't. I don't know if you should just walk up to an elephant. That might not be a smart idea. But, I'd like to see elephants. Bye, everybody! My uncle went to South Africa when he was like in his 20s. It's actually where he met my aunt, and they got married in South Africa. And when he came back, he brought back a bunch of these little figures. So this was long before I was born. But yeah, my parents have had them for a while, so they're very, very delicate. Some of the things have been damaged a little bit here, like the tusk got knocked out there. But yeah, I think they're pretty cool because they actually come from Africa.